Okay, we're gonna have to snuggle, family members.
See half ahead.
You might have to turn sort of sideways.
Sort of sideways.
Snuggle fest. There we go. There's my family members. All right, it's 9 o'clock, so we're about to get started. Bear with us while we get all situated. Here we go. There's us. That's what we look like on TV.
Cool.
Okay. All right, we got some viewage. All right, so do us a favor. Tell us who you are, where you're from. Hello, Tani. And now that we're starting to get some viewers, we are going to give away a free 5 milliliter bottle of essential oil. I like to call it mystery oil because I don't know which one it'll be, but you'll like it because they're all good. Hey, Meg. Hey, Michelle. How are you? And so what you want to do is if you want to enter the drawing, all you have to do is if you are not a doTERRA member of any team anywhere, and this is your very first Facebook Live Magic Beans event with us, then please comment and say, I am a guest of, and then tag the person who invited you. If a person didn't invite you and you're not really sure how you even found this, then guess what? You're probably my guest. So just say I'm a guest of the page. If you're a guest of the page, you probably will get an extra free bonus. So make sure that you comment since you're my personal guest. But every other guest will be entered, including you, will be entered into a drawing, and we'll do it for only the live viewers. So make sure you say I'm a guest of and tag the person that invited you. What's really fun is if you're part of a specific doTERRA team, you can hashtag your team. So if you've got like hashtag EO Club, hashtag Essential Families, hashtag whatever your team is. That way you can find your teammates. That's kind of fun. Okay, so we got people from North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Texas, all over the place. If you are from, well, if you're from anywhere and you're a Steelers fan, give us a little Steelers love. We had to pause from the Steelers game to actually bring this live broadcast to you. And the person who's most sad about that is sitting right here. Mm-hmm. It's my dad, Larry. I'm Deanna Nichols, by the way, if I didn't mention that. doTERRA Blue Diamond, and I'm here with my parentals. It's my mommy, Carol. A lot of you know her. She is a silver team leader for Oil Shares VIP. This is my dad, and he's secretly watching the football game in the background, so if you see him distracted, that's him watching the game. If he starts yelling, that's because they probably scored a touchdown or didn't score a touchdown. All right, and so basically what we're going to talk about is we're going to chat a little bit because my family has had quite a few traumatic events happen. I feel like I need to change the camera. Hold on. It's too, there we go. Hopefully I didn't ruin it. Let's see did I ruin it? Let's see. Okay, that's better. So my family's recently had some traumatic events happen, and my dad had a massive heart attack in June of this year, and then shortly after that I actually had a really bad car accident. And so if anybody knows about recovering from traumas, it's us, right?
Yes.
And so we're going to tell you a little bit about some things that have helped us through some of that tonight. And I know a lot of you have heard my dad's story. I've shared it before in one of these videos, but you get to actually meet him in person. First of all, we want to point out his really snazzy necklace he's got on here. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, my granddaughters made this for me, and I wore it the entire time I was in the hospital. And my wife put various doTERRA essential oils on it, so it was close to my breathing apparatus, and and it helped me a lot.
So what kind of oils did Mom put on there, and like what were you using them for?
Well, she used Breathe, and I think I don't remember what else. Balance. Right,
and Motivate.
So Breathe. Let's talk about why maybe you were using Breathe. So you had just were recovering from a major heart trauma, and so we noticed in the hospital that as he would like fall off to sleep, he would have a little bit of like desaturation of his oxygen, and he had not been like diagnosed with any sort of a sleep apnea or anything like that, so he didn't have any medical equipment for that. And so we were worried that he was not breathing well, so that was one of the reasons we used Breathe. We actually, when he was in the hospital, he was hooked up to the the O2 sensor to tell us, like, I don't know if that's the proper term, but to tell us like how he was doing. And you could watch him as he would drift off to sleep, like that the numbers would start to tank and he really wasn't getting oxygen. It was kind of scary to watch. And we weren't allowed to diffuse in the hospital room. So we took tissues and we put a couple drops of the Breathe oil on there. Let me see if I can find some Breathe oil here. So we took a couple of drops and just put it on tissues, and we would kind of put it strategically throughout the room. We also rubbed it on the bottoms of his feet, and he doesn't know this because he was like heavily drugged, but the rest of us could all see like the numbers change drastically in just like, I mean, less than a minute. You could see that he was getting more oxygen because it was opening his airways. So that's a little tip. Like, obviously, if you need to use medical equipment to breathe, please do that. But this is also something that can help, is the Breathe oil. Okay, and then, so why, Mom, do you want to talk about like why maybe you were using things like Balance and Motivate?
Oh yes, for mood, he needs some support that way because people who are in a traumatic situation like that get kind of, their spirits get kind of low and they need uplifting. So we were using the Motivate on his beads, and I would put it on him. Sometimes I'd use the Motivate that came in the Touch type blend where it's diluted with fractionated coconut oil already, and you roll it on. Sometimes I'd roll that on his chest, and other times I'd put some drops on his beads that he's wearing there, and so he could breathe it in because it was close to him. Mm-hmm. And I'd use the Balance too for that reason too, to balance out his mood, and so that worked very well. He had, it helped support his mood.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I can tell you too that like I struggled with some of that too, like with after my accident, is you just get sort of like unmotivated and depressed, and you're just like, whatever, I'll just eat whatever, and I'll stay up until 3 a.m. watching Netflix. I mean, you just sort of like almost lose your care for taking care of yourself. And I'm not sure, I think part of that, I had a therapist explain to me that when you have multiple traumas, and we honestly, before my dad had a heart attack, we had another family member that was in a motor vehicle accident, and then my dad had his heart attack, and then I had my accident. So she said that when you have suffered trauma, like it affects the chemicals in your brain, and then when you have multiple traumas, it's like you're like really at a deficit, and those chemicals in your brain can actually like cause you to feel real depression and sad feelings and things like that. And so one of the things that we really love about essential oils is that when you inhale the oils, they have a huge effect on your emotions immediately. And so when you are trying to your body's trying to recover, you have to take some responsibility for yourself. Like, you can't just check out. And so yeah, we both had people taking care of us. My husband took care of me for weeks. Like, there was 6 or 8 weeks where I lived in a lounge chair, and you were in the hospital for like 2 weeks, and then in rehab for how long?
About two
more weeks, and then coming home also, he was, had to be cared for by my mom. So fed and clothed and everything clean by somebody. And so you start to just get like, whatever, I'll just lay here, And so you do have to start taking some personal responsibility. Like, you have to make an effort to like drink the water that somebody gives you and eat the food that they give you and like do your exercises. That was one of the things. So I don't know if you remember much about that, but they when he was like starting to show improvements, they started to give him physical therapy exercises in the hospital, and they asked us as family members to like encourage him to do the exercises, and he wasn't really, well, how would you describe his attitude towards the
uncooperative? Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not doing these, they hurt. And so you have a lot of pain, and to be honest with you, we talk a lot about different parts of the body and how they affect your emotions, and like, you have to think, for him, it was his heart that was affected. That's like the center of all of your emotions too. So if you think about it, that's one of the things people struggle with after a heart attack or something, is they really do struggle with a lot of that emotional stuff, because they've like cut open and dug into your heart, and that has a lot to do with things. And so that's when we all kind of decided that we were going to prescribe some Motivate for Dad, because we really needed him to get better. We're like, okay, we need to stop thinking about dying and start thinking about the rest of your life. You need to be able to like move around and take care of yourself. Okay, so some of the parts, like I was asking my dad to share a lot today. He really doesn't remember a lot about, it would be kind of like interviewing me about the first few weeks of my accident. Like, I don't remember, I had a brain injury. So and still recovering from that, just like my dad's still recovering too. We both have a foot. What foot is it that you hurt? Did you hurt your left one or right one?
My left foot.
Yeah, it's my left side too, so that's kind of funny. We're like twins. And so we're still recovering, but the oils have been helpful. Of course, we have therapies that we go to, and we have medical doctors that are helping us, but the oils really give us kind of an edge, and they help us because they can help us affect our emotions immediately. They can help our body to handle pain and discomfort better. So that was one of the first things when my dad was extubated and he could talk. The first thing he asked me was to put oils on his leg. He got a leg injury. He fell and had a pretty bad leg injury, and he's been having a lot of pain with that. And so the first oils that we started putting on his leg was for pain. We used AromaTouch. That's a really good one for circulation and what else? Like
nerves.
Yeah, for nerves and helping to get rid of excess fluid in the body. He had gained like 60 pounds of fluid weight through his ordeal. So he was like his tissues were really puffy. So this was one reason we wanted to use the AromaTouch oil. We also were giving him lemon oil in his water. I've had surgery and stuff multiple times since I've been using the oils. And one of the biggest struggles people have after surgery is getting their system moving again. Like you're able to like make urine and have bowel movements and get rid of like toxins. They give you a lot of medications and you have a lot of extra fluid in your body built up. And so one of the things they like to do is give you something to like soften your stool after you've had surgery. And my mom and I thought it was pretty funny because like as soon as he could like take in liquids, I went down to the gift shop and I bought him like a stainless steel mug, and we were filling it up with water and putting the lemon oil in it for him, and he kept saying, "Oh, it's so delicious," and we laughed because we've been trying to get him to drink lemon oil for like years, and he's like, "I don't like it." But in the hospital he's like, "It's so delicious." And so finally he was like going to the bathroom so much that he was like, no more with the softeners. He didn't need them at all because like his body was naturally doing what it was supposed to do, and I thought that was really cool. He was making urine really well, which is a big concern that they have. They want to make sure your kidney functions good anytime you have something traumatic like that happen. So we were really encouraged by the lemon. And have you noticed anything since you've been doing the lemon?
Yes, I have. I've lost 40 pounds. And of course, it's hard to eat with a ventilator in your mouth. But that was only about a week, I guess. And so the rest of the weight loss I attribute primarily to the lemon oil.
Yeah, and of course, it also helps when you have someone like my mom serving you what you're eating, because she's always been a very health conscious cook. And so, like, when you can't go out and get yourself junky food, that's helpful. But I think, like, I was just interviewing another one of my friends, CJ, I know you're on here. I was just talking to him, and he was like, he used to drink a lot of sodas. And since he stopped doing the sodas and started drinking lemon, he doesn't actually drink it in his water. He puts it in a capsule and then drinks water, which is something he didn't do before. He wasn't drinking water. And he said, I think his mom said he probably lost like maybe 75 pounds in the last maybe 6 months since he's been doing that. And you've lost 40. So, I mean, it really does help to make that a part of your habits as well. Now, we cannot have this conversation without talking about frankincense. Right, Dad?
Right.
This is not it, though. That's geranium. Where is the frankincense? Maybe the stickers. Yeah, there's no sticker on it. So, my dad's story sort of kind of started with frankincense because he had he had cardiac arrest 4 times, had to be resuscitated. He had to go to the cath lab, and then he had twice to the cath lab, triple bypass, double bypass, and basically, he was alive because of medicine. Like they did everything possible. They were wonderful. He was life flighted. They caught his heart attack really quick. So they did a really great job. He had an excellent cardiovascular surgeon, or cardiothoracic surgeon, and but at one point the night. Like, I guess he had heart surgery early that morning. Late that night, the cardiothoracic surgeon basically said there's nothing else medicine can do for him now. Like, prepare yourself because there's nothing else we can do. If we could think of something else to give him, there's no place left to put it. He was, like, so maxed out on everything. I mean, how would you describe, like, how many things he was being given and how many machines were running his body?
Science, sci-fi movie,
yeah.
And seeing all this equipment.
Pretty scary to see, like, his heart wasn't beating it for itself and he wasn't breathing for himself, and then he had central lines and, like, all kinds of stuff coming in everywhere in his body. So, at that point, we felt like it was time to mess around with the oils. So normally I have no problem using oils in conjunction with modern medicine. I mean, oils are what we call adaptogenic, so they're made to like help your body bring it into balance, and they don't like interfere with medications or anything. But if you had seen my dad, you would understand why I chose not to use really any oils, is because he was on so many medications, and they were saying that, like it was such a precarious situation that if they like barely adjusted one, it would affect 5 other things, and that barely adjusting his electrolyte level or his medication that was controlling his heart rhythms, barely adjusting that could like throw him into cardiac arrest. And so they were just keeping such a, like a close eye on it, that I felt like I just needed to let them do their thing. I don't have medical training, so I stayed out of it. But when they said like there's nothing else we can do, I thought, well, this is the time to introduce something natural into the body and see if the body can find some information in those essential oils that it can use. And so what I did was I started applying frankincense to my dad, and I would do it wherever I could get to him. There wasn't many spots. There was like his head right here and a little area on one of his feet that I could get to. And so they would only let me come in his room for very, very short periods, like a minute, every 60 to 90 minutes. And so I just, when the doctor told me that information, I just decided to do it all night long. So I would just kind of keep my eye on my phone, and as soon as it was at like the 60, 90 minute mark, I would go in there and do it again. I didn't ask permission at this point. I just would put a little in my hand, and then I would go in and put it on him. And by the way, I would be really careful that you're using doTERRA oils here, because there are lots of other ingredients in essential oils that certainly you would not want to introduce into a situation where somebody is not healthy. So we know that this is pure frankincense. It's not been adulterated. If you want to check that out, you can go to sourcetoyou.com and actually check to see that this is a pure essential oil. So anyway, back to my story. So I started doing that, and I basically stayed up all night so that I could do that. And then in the morning, when it was like the time for the shift change for the nurses, she came in and told us that somehow they had no explanation, but everything had like stabilized. And I believe it's really because frankincense is we call it a super oil, and we also say like, when in doubt, get your frankincense out. We always say that. And that's really what I did. Like, I didn't want to mess around too much, but I thought like frankincense helps your body at the cellular level, and it gives your body information, and then your body knows what to do with it. So I felt like his body at that point had been through like massive trauma, and it was just fighting, and it didn't know really a plan. There was just chaos. And I felt like when we introduced the frankincense, his body was like, okay, now we found a new path, and now we can just like start to put things back together again. And it was pretty amazing when it was only just a few days later that they, he started like responding. He was still intubated, but he started like showing signs that he was improving, and they started to back slowly off some of the things they were giving him. At that point, we felt more comfortable introducing some essential oils, and I consulted with somebody that's even more of an expert on essential oils than I was. And one of the concerns that we had was my father had a pretty serious leg injury, and we didn't know the extent of it because all the focus was on his heart, and they couldn't even move him to see what was wrong with his leg. But he had taken a fall before he had a heart attack, and his leg was like rock hard, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
I've never seen anything like it.
Discolored.
Mm-hmm. We were really worried about what had possibly happened to his leg. Like, would he ever be able to use it again? Was it getting blood flow? So we started to like try to ask them to look into what was going on with his leg when we knew he was out of the woods. And so one of the oils that we started to use at the recommendation of a friend of mine, I can't even find it. Do you see it? Is this it? Yeah, this is it here. Was black pepper. Black pepper is a really great oil to support circulation, and we just felt really strongly that he needed help in that area because, like, obviously everybody kept saying, like, there was obviously some bleeding in the tissues, and we wanted to just help, like, relieve any sort of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like, irritation in the tissues, and just soothe that and make sure he was getting proper blood flow so that it could heal if he was ever going to have a chance of using it again. And so black pepper was one that we incorporated. We also used a lot of Immortelle. If anyone knows me, they know that this is like my most favorite oil, and it's so favorite that it's not in here. I stole it. I always steal it out of my bag and put it in my purse. Nope, that's not it. But it comes in a roller, kind of like this right here. Okay? And it has like all of the, what John, my husband, would call the Mac Daddy oils, like the heavy hitters. It's got frankincense, it has sandalwood, it has helichrysum, it has rose, which before recently we couldn't even get that oil. We couldn't even buy it. What am I missing? Helichrysum, did I say helichrysum?
Yes.
Lavender. So all the oils that are really good at supporting your body in the healing process. You know, your body's supposed to be able to heal itself if you give it the right information. So we started using that. My mom would put it all on his leg and on his foot. And then as he started to heal a little bit, she would put it on his incision as well. Yeah. And we feel like that was a really good oil for him. I mentioned the Aroma Touch DDR Prime, right?
Oh yes, we were putting that on.
So I don't see that here. DDR, we use the oil version of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So DDR Prime is an essential oil blend, and it's also a soft gel. But obviously he wasn't at the point where we could be giving him stuff, you know, by mouth. And so we really, again, wanted to make sure that his body was able at the cellular level to repair itself. He had obviously had damage to his heart and whatever else. We didn't even really know all the full extent of what had gone on. We were worried that he may have been deprived of oxygen for periods of time. So we wanted to just give his brain support too. And so we started using that. And we were applying the oils topically about every 3 hours, I would say. At one point he had, during one of his cardiac arrests, he had vomited and then aspirated into his lungs. And so he had this mass in his lungs that they were concerned about. I did some research on PubMed and found out that there's been a lot of situations like that where essential oils, diffusing essential oils into the air was really helpful. So I asked permission if I could diffuse in his hospital room. And so we started diffusing frankincense so that it would, because it gets in your lungs really well when you're inhaling it. They weren't too happy with me for diffusing, so we had to stop that. But it was okay because we were able to apply the oils topically, and he was still getting the benefits because they get into your bloodstream and they go where they're supposed to go. Okay, so he headed into rehab. So tell us, Mom, some of the things that you did in rehab to help him as he was trying to heal and get back to where he was able to come home and be more mobile.
I just kept applying every time I went. I kept applying the oils on his leg and feet, bottom of both feet, like the DDR Prime, like she mentioned, for cellular health. I was using Melaleuca too. It's another one that we don't even think about a lot of times, but it does support the nerves.
Yeah.
Things like that.
And it's good to help in case you get in contact with any sort of microbes or pathogens. It helps your body to be able to get rid of those better too.
Okay, and then we were using, let's see, like she said, black pepper. We're still using that. Let's see. I don't know what else we were using.
Well, we mentioned the oils on his necklace, and then you told me that you were diffusing in his room. So you had a diffuser.
Yes,
so they were no longer in like a ICU situation. Mm-hmm. So there was no issue. And every other time I've ever been in the hospital myself or had a family member in a regular room, we've always used a diffuser, and it's never been a problem. So that's a really common thing that people do.
We're using the protective blend, On Guard, to protect against things in the environment, and that worked very well. And it itself too, because it contains wild orange is one of the things, and things like that are very uplifting too. Mm-hmm. So that was a help too, to be able to have that atmosphere in your room, you know, a clean atmosphere.
So
by the way, all the nurses that came into my room said, "It smells so good in here. We kind of fight over which one's coming into the room."
And that's seriously like how the response that you normally get 99.9% of the time. There might be one really grumpy person that doesn't understand the power of essential oils, and frankly, maybe it's like bringing up some things for them that they don't really necessarily want to get rid of at that time. So sometimes we just have to, you know, pray for them and bless their little hearts and just keep moving on.
And I also put the On Guard in a spray bottle with some water for him to use to spray on his hands every time before he ate, and different things like that, where he couldn't wash his hands. So that protected him against things he was touching, you know.
That's really important when you're in a hospital for a long period of time, or a rehab center, when you're like, that's just a place where germs are.
Yes.
And so the last thing you need when you're recovering and your body's at a weak point is to pick up some sort of germ that you don't want. And so that's important. And especially if a person's not super mobile, they can't just always go run to the sink and wash their hands. That's a great idea. And now that we have that new On Guard, I don't have any here, but that new On Guard hand sanitizer that we sell, that's like great to have with you in that situation. Now, you mentioned at convention in September, that was like July, August, so you were like 3 months post heart attack. And what was the new product that came out that you were the most excited about?
The Copaiba oil, since it came out, my wife uses it whenever I'm in pain in my foot and my leg. She uses that, and literally the pain is completely gone within 5 to 10 minutes. It's an amazing oil, and she's given me a couple drops under my tongue too, which helps to alleviate the pain. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I agree. For my situation too, when they came out with that oil, I too started using it under my tongue. I would use it topically because I also have a lot of pain issues still. And even diffusing it on my diffuser bracelet so I can smell it a lot. It's very calming. And when you've been through a trauma, I mean, you may not remember yours. He remembers some things about his. I remember a lot of things and a lot of scary situations. It can be, you can really struggle with the emotions of that. And so it helps for me to stay calm and to get better rest, which is important when you're trying to recover, to get proper rest.
Yeah, I made it into a massage cream so I could have it massaged onto his.
What did you put in that?
I don't have them all right here. I know I have it on somewhere on my phone. But I put the Copaiba oil in it, the frankincense, and I had, let's see, what was the others? Oh, goodness, I can't think right now.
But what is like the base of it? What is it in?
Oh, it was in coconut oil, just a regular coconut oil.
Like the solid coconut oil. So it's just like a little cream that she puts on. And I used it the other day because my foot was really hurting. And I used it and it was like magical. What do you call it? Or are we allowed to say what you call it? Did you have a funny name for it?
Marijuana oil.
It's not, okay? It's totally not. It's not even related. But we were joking about it. But it was really helpful to me as well. We're getting ready to close up. But one of the things that my dad and I were talking about is like, what are the top 3 things that we struggled with the most? Like once we were out of the woods and we were just trying to get back to normal, whatever that is now. And I think we came up with like 3 main areas. So we talked about like pain and discomfort is like number 1. Mm-hmm. And when you're in pain and discomfort, it's easy to get like short and snappy with people. And like you just cannot find a comfortable position to sit or lie down. And you get, that kind of falls into number 2. Mobility is your number 2 thing. Like you can't move around yourself. You can't like even move yourself into a more comfortable position. You can't get yourself to the bathroom or like clean yourself. And so you're dependent on everybody. And so like you're just kind of grumpy and annoyed and frustrated. And that leads into number 3, which is the emotional stuff. And that's where the like apathy or the sad feelings, anxious feelings all comes in together. There's no clinical diagnosis like that we're dealing with here. We're just saying our feelings. And so those are really the 3 main struggles. And I feel like the oils help me with all 3 of those. I mean, do you agree with that?
I do.
Yeah. And so one of the main things is like, I got out of one of my daily health habits. Mary, are you laughing at me for, covering up for myself? One of the things is I got out of my daily health habits of taking my Lifelong Vitality Pack because I couldn't like go and get them for myself. And my poor husband, I mean, he was trying to take care of our 3-year-old, our business, and like make sure I was like alive in my chair. So he wasn't always remembering to give me these. And so once I was able to get back in the habit of that, I noticed that all those things were better for me. And don't you take that too? You take the Lifelong Vitality Pack?
Yes, I do.
How do you feel like if you skip it for a few days?
We found that out not too long ago.
Yeah?
Are you
telling on him?
changed,
Oh.
His mood got, not good again. And so I was so happy when I actually had to borrow some from somebody. And so I got some in. And it was just remarkable how his mood changed in those few days that he was without it. And it's not good.
Yeah.
So,
one thing before we close, I'm going to tell you like how you can get your hands on some oil. So stick around because we're about to tell you that. Don't forget if you are a first-time guest. Oh, she's not laughing at me. Okay, good. That's good news. If you're a first-time guest and you're not a doTERRA member, please say, I am a guest of, and tag your person so that we can enter you in a drawing here. And it's only for live viewers, so it's going to be whoever's commented. But I want to just tell you, like, the oils are amazing. But what's really cool about being a wholesale doTERRA member and being part of a team of people that are, like, using the oils and learning about them together is the community. And I feel like that's what people miss out on. They don't understand when we're trying to say like, hey, you want to get a wholesale membership. They're like, ooh, I don't want to join something. I don't want to commit to something. But the thing that comes with that is like just as valuable as the oils. So my dad, you get people with it. You don't get people when you buy an oil somewhere off an internet or off the shelf. You get people when you have a wholesale membership, and you're seeing some of our people here commenting. But we have people everywhere, literally everywhere you go. So my dad, I was living in Tennessee. My dad was living in Michigan. He had a heart attack in Ohio. So like he was 3 hours from anybody he really knew. But people kept showing up at the hospital, bringing food and bringing money and like praying for him and just offering to give us places to stay. It was incredible. And like my actual family, like my blood family was there, and they're like, who are these people? And I said, these are my doTERRA family. I mean, you have this like huge family, and it's everywhere. So you could literally go to like Nebraska and you're going to run into Oil Shares VIP people. I'm here in Michigan. I was at the, I put a video on here. I was at Greenfield, what is it called?
Greenfield Village.
Greenfield Village. I kept wanting to call it Greenwich Village for some reason. Greenfield Village in like Dearborn, Detroit area, and I ran into an Oil Shares VIP from Pennsylvania there. So it's literally like everywhere you go. And then my mom can probably tell you, like, did you get any oils in the mail from people?
Yes. Yes.
You want to talk about that for a second?
Yes. I got people that I didn't know. I don't think I knew them, and it's just I had people that people that I didn't know were praying. They said they were praying. And by the way, if you're on the video, I want to thank you for that. My
Me too.
husband
So do I.
thanks you for everything that you've done for our family, praying and giving toward things that we had needs of.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for that.
And they were really desperately in need of oils, like the big oils that are expensive, like Immortelle and frankincense and helichrysum. And people from all over the country on our oils team just started mailing them oils. And like for me, that was super encouraging because that was like a tangible way that they could help. And the other thing is he had to get moved from the hospital in Ohio to a rehab center in Michigan so that my mom didn't have to drive 3 hours every day to see him or whatever. And it was just a hardship on the family. And his insurance didn't pay for that. It was like, what, $3,000 or something like that to move him to the rehab center. And so our Oil Shares family was like, put up a GoFundMe and we will give. And it was like, honestly, it was mostly Oil Shares VIP people who were giving to that and made it possible for him to be closer to home, which was very good for my mom as well as my dad. It's important to have family nearby, and he didn't have anybody nearby in that area. So I just want you to know why the community is super important. So if you want to be part of this awesome community and you want to get some oils in your home, the best way to do that is to find a starter kit that works best for you. There's a lot of great ones. The Home Essentials Kit has the top 10 most common oils every home needs. That's 20% off this month, which is so crazy. doTERRA has never done that before. So talk to the person who invited you to the video, or if you're a guest of the page, send me a private message. I actually have a huge, massive Cyber Monday sale going on. So if you're not a member and you're not working with another wellness advocate, I have a link on the video for the Oil Shares Underground. Make sure you request to join there if you're not a doTERRA member and you're not working with someone else. And so talk to the person that invited you. They may have something going on too, but doTERRA has a huge something. 20% off of 6 of our starter kits. You get a free wholesale membership, access to this amazing community, and lots more. Okay, so make sure that you have shared if you're a guest tonight. If you asked a question we didn't answer, I'll go back through and read through your comments. Make sure you get an answer. But if you have any detailed questions, please send me a private message if you're not working with someone else. And we'll be back here again next Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Have a great night. Thank you so much for being here. Did you want to add anything?
I just want to say that I know I'm not allowed to talk about medicine and comparisons to that. However, I believe that I'm alive tonight because of doTERRA.
Thank you, Dad. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think a lot of it also has to do with the hope and the prayers and everything of our family all over the country, and we really appreciate that. So thank you all for being here, and have an awesome night. See you next time.